Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jesse Kiefer from the Grawlix Podcast, which you can always find at grawlixpodcast.com. We are part of the Electronic Media Collective Podcast Network. Yes, it's a mouthful. I'm super excited tonight, ladies and gentlemen, because I am kicking off our new segment called Grawlix Bytes. Grawlix Bytes is a quick segment. It's centered around a specific topic that we kind of choose depending on what's going on. It is additional content. We're not going to supplement the main show. The main show is still going to be the main show, but what this is an opportunity for the hosts of the Grawlix Podcast, which would be myself, Randy, Melanie, to kind of go ahead and sound off on the different news items that pop up in the middle of the month that are kind of time sensitive and sort of become old news by the time we actually get to sit down and record the monthly show. That way, we get to keep the monthly show a little bit more timeless, and we can still respond to those things that pop up. The format is kind of fluid, and we're kind of working it out right now. It might change, and the hosts are probably going to rotate. In the future, it might be Randy. It might be Melanie. It might even be one of our Grawlix Podcast super friends, like Axton Kaler or Holly Kiefer, who have both been on the show before. Who knows? But with that... For this inaugural episode, it is Holly Kiefer and I chatting about Planet Comicon 2015 in Kansas City, Missouri.
Whoop whoop!
All right. Before we get started, really quick disclaimer. We are trying out a new microphone, and we are recording live at home. So if you hear dogs snoring or that kind of thing, that's why you're hearing those things, is that this is authentic in-house radio.
Yeah.
So real quick, Holly Kiefer, How are you?
I'm peachy.
Good. I mentioned in the intro that we were going to have Grawlix Podcast Super Friends on the show. Holly has been on the show before. If you go back into our episode list on grawlixpodcast.com, you can find that episode. It is called Border and Chaos because of our border collie.
So, super friends.
I like it.
All right.
So, what I thought we'd talk about today is Planet Comicon 2015 that we recently attended. Now, it's going on almost a month ago. Life gets busy. You kind of take a break from reality when you go down to a con. But this was the first time that you went down to Planet Comicon, and I thought that you might be interested in telling us a little bit about how it is for you as a new attendee to a slightly bigger con. Before we get into that, what about the cons that you've been to in the past? Because you've attended cons with me here locally. What are some of the cons that you've been to? And maybe just real briefly, what are some of the experiences that you've had with like the smaller cons and the local cons?
Gosh, I thought it was going to be hard enough just trying to talk about a con I went to a month ago. Now you're going to make me track back into every con I've ever been to, which isn't a big list, so it shouldn't be too hard. British Fest, which you tabled at. That was definitely that was the most recent con besides Planet. That one was a lot of fun. It was really busy. And it's a lot of the things that I love in terms of celebrating the weird. I'm a little bit of an Anglophile, so British Fest was kind of sensible to go to. And the one before that was Contagion?
Yeah, Contagion, yeah. And that's been several years ago now.
Yeah. Those are the only cons I've been. I think those are the cons I've been to.
And at that one, we're going way back.
Yeah.
That was one of Omaha's attempts at kind of a bigger con. And that one we had Jewel Slate at. It was kind of the big...
Slate.
I always mess that up. Okay, yes. Well, for the Firefly fans out there, that's Kaylee. So
she was kind of the guest of honor at that one. And so we went to, that was the big thing to see that day, was the Q&A with her. And so we went to a couple of panels at that one. I went all weekend, and I think I talked you into going on Saturday, which was the bigger day.
Yeah, I think so, because it was the same day as the Omaha Arts Festival.
Yeah, true. So, out of those cons, what have you found that you really enjoyed?
I like to people watch. I always have. So, and cons are fantastic for people watching because one, there's about 1 billion people, it feels like, and two, it's the cosplayers. You get to see this excellent group of people that have put a lot of effort into this really cool costume and way of appearing, and some people will even stay in character the whole time. So that can be really interesting to watch, and watching people's reactions to things like that. Because I think, because when you go back to Contagion, that was even before I started watching Doctor Who. So
right.
So I remember looking at the TARDIS and being like, "That's really cool. I have no idea."
Yeah.
And there's a photo of me pretending to peer into the TARDIS, and I have no clue. I'm like, it's a big blue slab.
Right.
So, and then to now, the next con being British Fest, having watched all the new Who and some of the old Who as well. And totally getting most of the things that are coming by me.
You went to an awful lot of panels at that one.
At British Fest?
Yeah, or it seems like you went to more panels, at least. What'd you think of the panel experience?
Panels are fun. I like that it's a little bit more structured, which I think can be really useful when you've been walking around a con and you're just banging into people left and right. That's a little bit more chaotic. So I like that element of panels, and you know what you're walking into.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's go ahead and jump ahead to our actual topic, which is Planet Comicon.
Right.
This was my second year, so I had gone the year before, road trip with a bunch of the guys, and we just spent the one day there. And we talked about this. I believe we talked about this in the first or second episode ever of Grawlix Podcast. So again, you can go to thegrawlixpodcast.com, look at our past episodes, and look that up if you're interested. But that was a much more condensed experience for me, where I had to try and get everything I wanted to do done in a day. And it was, I kind of had my plan, and I went in, and I was going to do those things. I kind of had plan A and plan B. These are the things I have to see. These are the things I want to see. These are the things I could live without seeing, or I could try to do that, at a different con in the future. And so that was really kind of slam bam, get things done style of conning, and I had a lot of fun. But we wanted to go back this year, and I like experiencing that. I definitely was interested to see how you felt about this bigger con, because for me it was a little bit of wow, the cons I've been to locally have been a lot of fun. They're just it's almost a totally different beast. It's I don't know how to explain it, and that's what we're going to kind of get into today. We decided this time to go for the full 3 days so that we could get the full experience. And so tell us a little bit about the beforehand. What were the things that we did to kind of get us ready for the 3 days, like lodging and looking ahead? And in that, what were the things we did, and what were the things we wish we did?
Always write a checklist. Always write a checklist. We didn't write a checklist. Actually, I did. I had one, but then it was this is the things that need to happen. These are ideas, and then when it came to packing, we didn't have a checklist. Not completely. Not a con specific. If you're super crave organization like we do, we do really well when we're organized. So it was a matter of getting a lodging set up, and that we selected a loft really nearby. That was an Airbnb. Airbnb is, if you're unaware, is the company that allows people to put up their own living space for people to come and stay in. Some people will just like lease a room in their house while they're there. Some people will lease you their entire space. Some people will have like multiple rooms in their house that have multiple Airbnb people staying with them. And so it's a way to be able to do this like on the cheap, but at the same time connect with locals. So your locals can tell you like great places to eat, great places to visit, things to do in the area, where you might, I mean, you could potentially get that from a hotel, but it's more of a, I feel more of a flavorful experience if you can actually talk to someone who lives in the area. And yeah, so so we got this really sweet loft, like half a mile from the convention center, and that was kind of a godsend, because it wasn't a huge apartment, but it was big compared to like what you'd be in a hotel room. Nice and private, totally mod. It was great.
All the amenities of home, really.
Yeah, like a kitchen. We cooked. I made enchiladas.
Yeah.
And they were amazing. And we sat on the couch and like watched Netflix. It was just like coming home afterwards in a way. Because there was a lot of stuff going on in Kansas City at the same time, including the NCAA.
There's the Big 12
Crap.
semifinals.
Yeah, basketball.
So, what did you think about the distance? That was a big deal for me because I did not want to be driving to and from the convention center.
Yeah, we parked in a parking garage, the apartment complex's parking garage, and we walked the whole time. We drove once to go to a grocery store.
Yeah, and that wasn't fun either.
Oh, God.
Because there was all sorts of construction and things that we didn't know.
So, construction, a convention, another convention, because there was an anime convention, too, and the Big 12.
Yeah, it was a busy weekend.
So glad we didn't stay in a hotel.
So, yeah, that was one of the things that we didn't know, and I kind of wish we had, done a little bit of research on, was what other events were happening, because after a long day at that, after that first long day at the con, and it wasn't really that long, but, after that first day at the con, we wanted to kind of do some things after the fact, but we didn't realize that every place was going to be kind of booked with people watching the semifinals. Mm-hmm. So the handful of places that we were going to go to right near the apartment were already super booked with things that were happening, to the point where it was like standing room only.
Yeah. But, learning experience. And I mean, granted, and it was Casey too, and it was a beautiful weekend, so we could walk around. We hit a couple of really neat farm to table restaurants in the area, and we were able to connect with my friend Kathy, who I didn't even know was going to be there, so we were like, holy crap. So we got to connect, which was really nice. And
so if you're listening, guys, Hi.
Thanks
for listening. We had a good time.
Yeah, it was really awesome. Yeah, I'm just remembering that food.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the food.
Near downtown. It was kind of off of downtown. It was
the convention center area.
Less than a mile away from the convention center.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the market. The second one we went to for Sunday brunch, that was in the market. West Side Local. That was where we went to for lunch on Saturday, and then we went to brunch on Sunday.
And the coffee was like quail...
Yeah.
Quay. Quay coffee.
Quay Coffee, that was the place. So good food.
Good food, good coffee at the Quay Coffee.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of the other stuff. That was the main... I mean, we went to the grocery store. That was really nice. Just to get food to crash out to... walking around the area was nice, except for the shoes.
Oh, sure. Well, let's go back then. Let's talk about day one. Day one, we walked down to the convention center, figured out how to check in and everything. Mm-hmm. And so tell them about your shoes.
I wore my Vibrams. Okay, so Vibrams, if you don't... care about barefoot shoes they're called the toe shoes is what people often call them. They're called Vibram Five Fingers, and they look like gloves for your feet. So they kind of allow you to be like you're barefoot, but without being barefoot. And so this is the first time I had worn them for an extended period of time, all winter, walking on cement. Then
we got into the con, so you
walking some more.
Yeah, you walked a half a mile down to the convention center, and then we hit con day 1. Mm-hmm. And yes, lots of walking when you're at the con. And even if you're not walking, you're on your feet a lot of time.
So it was kind of like, well, that was schmert. So that was a learning experience. Like, because I can handle walking around on those things for a long period of time. I do it. But that was my first time out. That was like bringing out green feet. And it was just not well thought out. So we ended up going back to the apartment at one point because we were kind of go back and then kind of go back and forth. And so I was really glad that I brought my tennis shoes that had better cushion for my heels. So that ended up working out better.
Okay, so these days are all just going to kind of blend together. So at this point, let's just kind of comment on the con. First of all, let's talk about going from I suppose the Quest Center is the biggest con that we'd been to before that. This took place in the Bartle Hall part of the Kansas City Convention Center. Tell us about how that's different.
It's really big.
Really big. And they opened up even more space.
Yeah, it was big. And that Saturday morning, that standing around was waiting to get into the con was like, wow. Which had its own kind of experience in and of itself, because you got to have a really good look at some of the cosplayers. And then just how much there was. Just so much.
So on day 1, it wasn't, we got there after the whole thing opened up, so there wasn't a whole lot of waiting around, there wasn't a lot of check-in. It was pretty much get in, you could get right in. The Friday and Sunday days of a con, day 1 and day 3, are usually a little bit less packed. A little bit more easygoing. And so we got a few things done on those days that, would have been a little bit harder to do on Saturday. Is there any good way to describe Saturday? I'm seeing big eyes.
I'm trying to come up with a way that doesn't involve profanity. I'm thinking. Yeah.
Is there anything like it? Is there ever, like, if a convention is its own kind of situation, what is the closest thing you can think of that would describe kind of the wall-to-wall peopleness of Saturday?
My yoga teacher once described traffic in India as rush hour traffic on the biggest roads you could possibly think of, and they let the circus out at the same time.
I think that's...
I think I might be prepared for traffic in India because I've been to a convention.
Well, I don't know. I don't think there will be quite as many Deadpools.
Or Wookiees.
Or Wookiees in India. I'm not ruling it out, but...
And the thing is, I'm really, really... I felt bad because I realized how good I am at bobbing and weaving. Like, when I go to concerts, I can just duck through people. I can maneuver pretty rapidly. I don't realize that the people behind me often can't, who are following me. So I realized partway through the day that Jesse wanted to kill me because he couldn't keep up with me because I just...
Oh, I could have, but I would have been knocking over children to do so.
That's what I mean. He couldn't kindly keep up with me because I just kind of make my way through.
So here, let's talk about some of the big things that you see at a con, and you've kind of already touched on the cosplay, talking about some of our smaller local cons. How did Planet stack? How did it compare?
Well, it was so much more crowded. So I mean, there was just a bigger sea of people and more Deadpools than I ever thought possible. I mean, I know that's kind of how many Deadpools are you going to see? Thing that seems to be pretty common in cons right now. But I should have counted. I think I lost track.
You started giving them names like action figure variants, like you had.
Yeah, I had French lingerie, French made lingerie Deadpool. He was my favorite. He had thought bubbles and everything, different colored bubbles for talking and for thinking. There was dancing Deadpool, the one with boombox running around that he was like attached to him, I think.
Yeah, he had like a backpack,
and he would
it.
like run around dancing. There was steampunk Deadpool was
That was
really
really
cool.
well done.
Yeah, that was really really well done. Because that had the potential to go really wrong, but it was really cool. Can't really think of any other Deadpools that were.
Okay, so besides Deadpools, what were your favorite cosplays?
Lilu Dallas Multipass.
Yeah, that was the one that you actually took a picture of, right? I saw some pretty good Power Rangers.
Yeah, there were some good Power Rangers. I was annoyed by the purple and pink furry things. I really wanted to see the Free Hugs Wookiee, and
I'm not even certain what you're talking about.
there were just these. I'm sure that someone would recognize what they were, but I did not. But there was a lot of purple and pink fluff on them, and
So like furries.
Maybe, but no. But yes. I don't know what they were, but they had a lot of pink and purple on them, and I saw them everywhere. And I saw the hugging Wookiee once, and I didn't get a hug because it was surrounded by people. I was upset about this, because I saw him once, and I saw those other things that I didn't give a crap about everywhere.
The 501st was in full force. They did almost like a parade-style walkthrough past the con line on Saturday, so there was a lot of really good professional-grade Star Wars cosplay for sure. Mm-hmm. A lot of photo op. So, does that cover cosplay, do you think?
Yeah, there was one gal walking around with like enormous wings.
Oh yeah, she became kind of the topic of Saturday for sure, because it's like, well, how do you make sure you have plenty of room in line? You add gigantic wings to your costume.
Yeah, but they folded down, so at least there was that. So she had maneuverability.
So we got to meet Mike Horner from the Timey Wimey Puppet Show.
Yeah.
And bought one of his sock puppets, much to your chagrin. Although you did seem to enjoy.
I like puppets.
Okay.
I don't like your puppets.
Okay, see, I was waiting for the other shoe.
That's mean.
But it was pretty cool, at least for me, because I got to mention that I sat in on Mike's panel at British Fest, because he's been to a couple cons. This is the first time we were able to actually catch his show in the big room, and it was cool because he recognized me from Facebook, which you don't realize the reach that you have, and that people will actually remember who you are. So that was a pretty cool moment. What were some of the other highlights, like in the Artist Alley?
Katie Cook.
Katie Cook was pretty awesome. We did that on the last day. So thankfully, we were able to get into her line. From what I understand, her line on Saturday was around behind it like curved back around behind the tables and behind the booths. It was she's there. For those that don't know the whole body of Katie Cook's work, Katie Cook is well known as one of the would be IDW My Little Pony artists. So she was busy. So it was interesting to be able to meet her and see her at work, because she was doing all those mini paintings that she does, and she would just whip one of those out real quick, and it was kind of a really cool and unique little product that she was selling there. On day one, we picked up a commission that I had done of my character Tank Monkey, tankmonkeycomic.com, done by Kelly Williams, and I got to meet and chat with Christian Sager and Kelly Williams, who are also known for The Cabinet, which is an excellent graphic novel that is based on kind of historical events, a historical horror graphic novel, if you will, which we've reviewed on the podcast. So take a look, and we'll put a link to that in the show notes for this episode. And so that was pretty interesting, getting to connect with people that I've met on Twitter but haven't met in real life. Speaking of people that we've reviewed on the show before, we met the Canon in the Clouds folks and got to connect with them, who we did a review for. And they and I mentioned this on the monthly show, but they really were very genuine, very cool people. So it was very exciting to be able to connect with them as well. And, I think the biggest moment in Artist Alley, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was getting to meet Stan Sakai.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Fill us in on kind of the story of meeting him.
We had brought some Usagi Yojimbo to have signed for Jesse's brother, who was a fan, and we popped in, had him sign it. We also bought one of his sketchbooks, right? Made a donation because he would do a quick sketch if you donated to the Japanese American Heritage Museum.
Mm-hmm.
I just made the donation because I was like, this is really cool. And then we were talking to him a little bit and mentioned how this was going to be a birthday gift for Jesse's brother, whose birthday was actually that day. And he's like, give me your backboard. I was like, okay. Because with the comic that we had brought to have him sign. And so he takes is it whiteboard? Black backboard? What do you call it? I just call it the board.
His comic backing board, yeah.
And he takes it and he starts drawing out this great sketch of Usagi Yojimbo and writes happy birthday.
Yeah, so he personalized it, and he was offering like headshots of Usagi Yojimbo, but this is a full...
Yeah, this was a full sketch. So that was really cool. It kind of made our day. And he was talking about how the donations, how much money he had raised even just that day, like $400 for the Japanese American Museum. And when he had gone out to San Diego Comicon, he had raised like $3,000, which was fantastic. Yeah. Somebody who's doing a lot of really good giving back.
So I'm curious. I'm curious how much he wound up with, because that was on...
That was early Saturday.
It was Friday.
Was it Friday?
Yeah.
Wow.
We got a lot of our signatures, which is a great segue right here. Mm-hmm. We got a lot of our main signatures on Friday because, the traffic was down a little bit. And, and most of the people were there on Friday. So should we talk about that? Should we go into media guests?
Sure.
Okay, so on Friday, like we said, we kind of tried to hit all of our signature hounding or hunting, get those out of the way. There was a lot of good media guests at this year's. There were several that had to, for one reason or another, cancel. Like John Barrowman was scheduled to be there, and he had to cancel out for conflicts in the schedule and whatnot. And that's not uncommon. But there were still huge names there. And so on day one, we hit a few to go ahead and tick them off of our list. Mm-hmm. The first one that we went to was Caitlin Blackwood, who played the youngest Pond.
Yeah, the initial appearance of Amelia Pond.
In Doctor Who season, I think it was 5, series, because it's the UK and they call it series instead of seasons. So we got to meet her, really short line, very polite, quiet young lady. Mm-hmm. I've always got to have an awkward con moment.
Oh my god.
So this poor young lady got to be my awkward con moment. Because when you get up there and you pay your fee, you get to choose a 8x10 photograph. So what does Jesse the
jerk?
Well, I was going to say teacher. What does he do? He looks at all the photos and picks out the one where she's smiling and goes, "Oh, well, let's do this one because at least she's smiling in it." Which, I think she took it in stride pretty well, but that's Jesse being socially awkward again.
Yeah, and it was, we got our picture taken with her too, which was also had its own element of awkward. It's like, we're not young people. I mean, we're young people, we're not young, like this lovely young lady was, and it was just like, so it's just like, nah, I'm cool with not doing that again. Very sweet girl, but also It's different interacting with fans. You never know what to expect, I think.
Yeah. And her line was different too. Like sometimes it would be longer, but it was never like a really, crammed line kind of thing. So I think she had a lot of downtime. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, probably pretty hard to stay high energy all day long anyways, but then to have kind of a shorter line and lots of downtime, that makes it a little bit harder. Mm-hmm. It can make for a long day.
Yeah.
You're better off when you're busy. The other one that we jumped in on was Scott Wilson. Mm-hmm. So I get the impression that was your favorite.
Yeah, Scott Wilson was pretty rad. So Scott Wilson played Herschel on The Walking Dead. That show is still terrifying for me. I don't do gore. I don't do nastiness.
Generally, you don't do horror.
No, really don't. With certain with certain exceptions. Obviously, The Walking Dead being one of them, because and horror usually the morality plays are the ones that I can watch, but not the torture porn. Herschel brought an element to the show that was very interesting, I thought, and every character on the show does. Every character on the show is very interesting and very human, and completely human at that. I dig shows where they aren't caricatures of people. They're people. They have their rights and their wrongs. They have people that you love them in 1 minute and hate them the next. And so meeting him was really cool, because there was like no one in the line, so we walked right up and chatted just briefly, and we elected to get a photograph with him rather than get an autograph. But as we walked up, and after we chatted, just pleasantries, had said, as he comes out to do the photo, he's like, "Where's my hug?" It's right here.
Yeah, that's how he was greeting people. It was really cool.
And because I'm a hugger, so it was like, yeah, it's good to meet other huggers. And very, very genuine, very affable, and just happy to be there. And so I got to tell him how he made a very, very scary show very watchable for me, and then unwatchable.
Yeah.
And he kind of had, he agreed with me, but he had said that when he first heard about it, he was like, bleh, and then he actually started hearing about it and seeing some of the development going on, and he was like, oh, yeah, I want to be a part of that. It was interesting chatting with him. He was a very nice guy.
Yeah. Definitely the highlight of our media guests situation. Mm-hmm. So going from that, then, I think our final experience was kind of more indicative of what happens when you've got the big name. And we, on Saturday, we got in line. We got there early before the con opened, and then we made a beeline to Karen Gillian's line. Or Jillian? How do you...
Gillian?
I always...
I don't know.
Wrong.
We always say it wrong.
Jillian.
It's Amelia Pond.
Amelia Pond on Doctor Who, yes. the full grown-up version of Amy Pond. Mm-hmm. So we got there, and we got in line with one of our buddies, and stood there for about an hour. And that was the first time that whole weekend that we had to deal with the VIP system, and how that worked as far as getting in lines for autographs and those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Now I had done this the year before, so you go ahead and talk about that experience.
So when you line up in this huge crisscrossing back and forth line, there's also a line right next to you that says VIP. And if you paid oodles and oodles of dollars for a sweet little neck badge, you could just cruise on past all of us that had been standing there for an hour or two and get your autograph or experience right away. You didn't have to wait in line unless it was your little VIP line. So anytime a VIP showed up, they just cruised on past.
Kind of put our line on pause.
Yeah. So I can see why people do VIP passes, depending on if the media guest thing is your thing. So there is that. So yeah, so waiting in line for Karen was waiting in big lines is a test of patience. I think I'm pretty collected a lot of the time, and then you make me wait in a line.
Yeah.
It's like, so shifting weight. So I decide, trying to stay moving so I'm not getting sore, but at the same time, not making people nervous. I mean, I was doing yoga poses. I had, people making comments. It was definitely interesting.
Oh, yeah.
For conversations with the people around us. Because I made some joke about doing a balance pose that made it look like I had to pee. And so this guy's like, this lady says she has to pee. And I'm like, no.
Yeah, it became a whole running gag of, would you like some more of my soda?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure, yeah. Feel free to go, to the restroom. Because that means I'll be that much closer in line.
Uh-huh.
Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, so waiting in line, and then one of her handlers, I guess that's the way I put it, one of her handlers comes around and starts asking if you're getting a ticket, if you're going to purchase an autograph. So she comes through and we pay her like $60 for this little ticket that we're going to turn in for a picture that she's going to put her name on. And then she comes through again about 15, 20 minutes later with a sticky note about how we wanted to personalize that autograph. So we put our sticky note with like Holly and Jesse on it on our thing and are moving through. So when we actually get up there, it's like this well-oiled machine. You stop, you get your picture, you hand the ticket to them, they slide the picture over, and she engages with you for all of 10 seconds while writing out her autograph. And so all of the engagement, all of the opportunity to actually talk to this human being that you look up to is pretty well taken away. I get it because it's a huge line.
Yeah, her line was enormous.
It was massive. I mean, wrapped around. Like, there were hundreds of people in line. So I totally get that, but I also feel like if someone spent $60+ to get for some people, their idols, someone they really, really like. I mean, we just think she's cool, you know?
Right.
And so that part was a little bit like, that was tough for me.
A little disillusioning, maybe?
Yeah. That was for me. And then you have someone like Scott Wilson who was like, what's your name? Hey, where's my hug? you know? And then, so that was a little bit...
Well, and because she was one of the big names, then you got the opposite situation where at both Caitlin Blackwood's table and at Scott Wilson's table, you could take pictures with them at the table, where with Karen, you weren't allowed to at all. No photos. You know, it said at the line break or the bridge, and they're kind of like policing it. They're kind of watching. So there was that, and so just kind of as like a backstory, we went through kind of this whole like should we, shouldn't we thing about getting the photo ops. And I even went on to the webpage, and on there it said, well, okay, yeah, you can say hi or whatever to your media guests, but if you want to have like a more meaningful interaction with them, you should save that for the autograph line. And so that was one of the reasons that we opted not to do the photo op, was because it sounded like, well, you're not really allowed to talk to them. We come to find out that being in her line that long, you basically got that same level of interaction for, almost the same price. Because a photo with both her and her cousin, the young Amy Pond, getting a photo with both of those was $80. So for $80, we could have said hi to both of them.
We ended up spending...
Oh, yeah, easily anyways.
That much for both of... Oh, that just occurred to me.
No, yeah, that was my main takeaway from this, was that if you're dealing with one of the media guests that's super popular, then maybe you just get the photo op anyways, because you're probably going to have the same level of interaction. Not because she was, that's one thing that I don't want to misrepresent. She was delightful.
Yeah, she was lovely. There's no saying that Karen was unpleasant or dismissive, because that was just that was just the feel that we took away from it. It wasn't how she was very friendly, and she was like, "Hey, ginger power," because her and Jesse are natural redheads. So it was.
Did she say she was natural redhead?
Is she? I thought she is.
Well, I know the other guy at her table was for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, she was all about ginger power,
Yeah.
at least. Yeah. So no, it was a very fun. She was very personable, very delightful for all 15 seconds or whatever.
Yeah. So that for me, that was kind of a learning experience too. It's like, if I'm going to spend my money, I want to have either good food in my belly or or something that I get to really enjoy craftsmanship of. I guess that was kind of my takeaway as well.
So that's a good segue to kind of our final little bit, unless there's other things you want to discuss, and that would be what about the vendors? Because there was a lot of cool things.
Mm-hmm. I would love to talk about Carrie Ellis.
Oh, yeah, okay, let's talk about that. Okay, there were a lot of media guests. We're just scratching the surface here.
Yeah.
Those were the ones we cared most
There was
about.
Michael Rooker, there was Gunn from Angel, there was Ming-Na Wen, who I would have loved to have met, because she was Mulan.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
and
right.
of course she was Agent May, but I love her as Mulan. There was Stephen Amell.
Yeah.
Amell?
Arrow. Yes.
Arrow. He was, and we didn't even get to see him because our timing was wrong. So, and Carrie Elwes was there, and Carrie Elwes had like his little area all sectioned off. You couldn't actually see.
It was intense. And by that I mean it was literally a tent. You couldn't see him. Everybody else kind of sits out in the open.
Yeah. Duh. And and so he was all like shrouded, the shroud of secrecy for the dread pirate Roberts. And so we were actually going to bum rush it.
Well, we looked at we walked around the back because there's a section behind the media guests, and we kept joking that we were going to just kind of peek our head in the back while everybody else was waiting in line in the front. We were just going to go boop, see what was going on in there. We're like, hey guys, see if we could photobomb somebody.
Boop.
Well, needless to say, we didn't do that because we were able to continue attending the con.
Yeah, we did. We were able to stay.
We joked about that with Chris the next day, that, there's no rule against that. And then we come back next year and see it in the con rules of etiquette and whatnot. We're like, hey, that rule's because of us.
Hey, we did that.
Hey, that's the keeper rule. Cons across the nation are now saying that you can't poke your head in through the tent. And he might have been awesome. I actually saw a lot of tweets from people that got to meet him that said he was pretty cool.
Okay.
But it was, we just kind of were like, "Boo, he's too good. Nobody could see him. He's got his own special tent. For everybody else, even Stephen Amell, who was only there for Sunday, he had his table out where everyone could see him too. Mm-hmm. So it just seemed a little off, but so. Yeah, okay, so back to vendors, or is there... Okay, so vendors. There's a lot of merch. Merch galore. I mean...
it sounds about right for a con.
Sure.
Yeah, there was all kinds of stuff. I'm really super specific about what I'm willing to buy, so...
Well, especially after spending $60 on an autograph.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So budgeting, we'll get to pro tips later, but budgeting is... going to be obviously one.
Yeah, so I don't really know what to say about merch. It was merch.
It was pretty. Like you saw lots of things. You saw kind of your almost like a commercial storefront. A lot of booths were like that, where you just saw kind of a hodgepodge.
There was a Hastings. There was a Hastings in there.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. Krypton Comics is from Omaha, Nebraska, so they had their booth there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's the kinds of things that you would expect to see at Krypton Comics. So it was pretty cool. What about things that were unique? Was there anything that was particularly unique about the vendor sections? Like, what were your favorite ones? I know you bought something.
Oh, I bought the tarot, the X-Men tarot.
It was a screen printing place, and I can put links to it in the show notes if you don't know right off the top of your head.
I don't know right off the top of my head.
Okay, well, we'll put those in the show notes. It was very cool. Axton actually bought a print from them as well, and it was all silk screen pieces of artwork done on different kinds of paper. So
yeah, they
cool.
were pretty cool. That
might be the only thing you bought, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. And I met a gentleman. His series is called Middle Child Syndrome, and he also had a kind of a journal comic series called The Colorblind Art Teacher, and so I obviously had to pick those up because colorblind art teacher and all. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of an interesting thing. Those are the main things that I spent money on were Katie Cook's table, the colorblind art teacher, and then my commission. From Kelly Williams, who was a stand-up gent. If I didn't say that before, I want to make sure. Did an awesome job. Can't wait to get it framed. So, yeah, that was kind of our adventure at the con. So let's go ahead and summarize this and throw out some just general tips and tricks.
Pro tips: have a list. Use your list. Have a checklist specifically for traveling to a con, and check it off.
Some of the things that we failed on. Backpack, yeah. Poor Holly had her bag, which is like a half backpack.
Mm-hmm. Just a purse, like a sling over the shoulder purse bag.
Thank goodness you had that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that wound up being brilliant. Without that, it would have been a much longer day. Carrying, you're always going to be carrying things, even if it's just the program. You probably bring your own water in because the food. Eating there at the con, glad we didn't do that, right?
Yeah. Expensive. I mean, it's great if you're hungry right then and there and you don't want to leave.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's there for, but they get you on that. And like drinks there, you could have got mixed drinks for $9 for like a cheap pre-mixed margarita.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I mean, if the drinks were like that, that'll kind of give you a guess on what the food is like. But it smelled good, it looked good, it was quality food for sure. But it was also price tag.
Yeah.
Yeah. So wear your walking shoes.
Budget.
Yeah, budget.
Know what's going on.
Yeah, know what's happening in the area. Use your list.
She can't emphasize this enough.
Because those things all of the things we put on that list will go on your con list too.
Yeah. So, food, I think, was a big could have, should have packed more.
Packed more food.
Yeah. And we even thought ahead, and we ate and drank all the things that we brought, for sure. It just, we needed
more.
Yeah, could have had more, could have saved more. That would have affected our budget more. Yeah, all the way across the board.
Yeah, and I guess for me, I would also prioritize. I would probably spend less on media guests. I'd still like to have the experience, but spending less money on it because I'd rather be able to take something home that I treasure. But that also being said, I treasure my experience with Scott Wilson. So
yeah, and you got a photo out of the deal.
Yeah,
so you will have that visual,
memorable
cue. So. No, so, throwing those out there, that's kind of like those are almost like our regrets. But, what did you think? Was Planet something that you would want to go back to next year, say?
Yeah, potentially. Yeah. It depends on, again, learning what we've learned and who the media guests are and what the panels are like. So we didn't even, we went to a few panels, but because there was a little bit of counterbalance, I guess, trying to make sure we made which way to what.
We really only got to the two. We got to was it Nerd for a Living?
Being a Nerd for a Living, and the Timey-Wimey Puppet Show.
And be ready to wait in the line there, too. So it was, you got as good as you gave, kind of thing.
Be ready for the people watching. Because people watching is excellent, even in states of overwhelm. I would do it again.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you, Holly, for being with us on Grawlix Bytes today.
My pleasure.
Thanks again to Holly Kiefer for letting me fumble through an interview with her for our first episode of Grawlix Bytes. And also thank you, listeners, for giving this episode a shot. If you enjoyed, please think about giving us a comment or a review. Comment on the website or review on iTunes or Stitcher. And I hope you enjoyed having your Grawlix Bytes.
Thank you for listening to the Grawlix Podcast. The Grawlix Podcast is a production of Electronic Media Collective and Vorpal Arrow Studios. This podcast is released under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License. To hear more, visit GrawlixPodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook at Facebook.com/GrawlixPodcast and like us on Twitter at Twitter.com/GrawlixPodcast.
Do 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 boop.